Thank you for waiting so long. Are you ready to enjoy the last 20 minutes? We are Team 10. I'm Nuri, Hyungmoo, Young, and Kyunggun. Based on our research of Romanson, we strongly recommend you to buy the stock. Our target price is 23,000 won, which is an upside potential of 103%. Our recommendation is mainly driven by these 4 points. First, the risk currently affecting the stock price of Romanson will be relieved. Second, Romanson has a solid brand image through successful positioning. Third, the performance in China market is expected to be promising. Lastly, the result of valuation indicates a high intrinsic value. This is the roadmap of our presentation. After briefly introducing Romanson, we talk about what the risks currently surrounding Romanson are and how these risks are mitigated. Next, we introduce the investment points of Romanson. Lastly, we will show you how to derive the intrinsic value of Romanson. Romanson was founded in 1988 as a watch manufacturing company. Currently, Romanson manufactured watch, jewelry, handbag, accounting for 70%, 51%, and 32% of sales, respectively. The company has been growing toward the total fashion brand, recording CAGR of 16% in current 5 years. The stock price of Romanson was peaked off at 21,000 won on June 22nd this year. Then it slipped down to 10,000 won level until today. What happened to Romanson and why we recommend you to buy the stock? Hyungmoo will begin by analyzing the 2 main causes.
Thank you, Nuri. So out of the many external and internal factors, for the sake of the presentation, we present to you the major external and internal factor. Let's begin with the external. The main external factor, or the risk, is the sluggish domestic economy. We can see that when the MERS crisis struck Korea last summer, the number of Chinese tourists has decreased sharply by about 49%. And as our main target customers are Chinese tourists, this has greatly affected the company. In addition, the consumer sentiment index has also decreased from as high as 105 to as low as 99. Now, fortunately, the MERS crisis has been subsidized, and we can see the number of Chinese tourists bouncing back to their previous levels. To be specific, from July to August, it has increased by about 101%. In addition, the consumer sentiment index recovers to 105 level in October. Now, the major internal risk that has affected Romanson in the past is the poor performance of the watch division. As the main exporting countries of Romanson watches, the Russia and the Middle East have been undergoing economic turmoil. As you can see on the graph, the sales for overseas watches, the stock price of Russia, and the price of oil all decreases in a similar fashion. At the same time, the watch division in Korea has recorded an economic loss for 4 consecutive years. In fact, in 2014, it recorded the largest loss, and we can also see that in 2015, for the first half, it is almost similar to that of the entire 2014 year. Romanson has undertaken 2 actions to mitigate this risk, the first of which is the restructuring of the watch division. Now, they plan to reduce the number of stores from 24 to 16. In addition, they close the stores, which will reduce unnecessary expenses rising from personnel and maintenance costs. At the same time, Romanson has already expanded into emerging Southeast Asian countries to export their watches, and currently this takes up about 60% of their total watch sales overseas. So far, I talked about a major external and an internal factor that has affected Romanson in the past. We believe for the company, the worst is over. And for the latter part of the presentation, we will deal with why we have to invest in Romanson and detailed analysis of the valuation.
Thank you, Hyungmoo. Even though there are negative events that drove the price down to current level, we recommend you to buy the stock now because these risks have been real now and have not affected Romanson fundamental. Romanson has a great growth potential based on 3 investment points. First is successful positioning as a masstige brand. Masstige is combined term mass plus prestige, which means luxury item for the mass. Second is outstanding performance of Tina in handbag and jewelry divisions. And third is expected success of Tina in the Chinese market. JSON found the blue ocean between high-end luxury jewelry and low-end local costume jewelry. By entering new market, breaching jewelry, JSON has become the market leader in the message category. JSON offers fashionable, trendy items for the mass at a reasonable price. The survey by Gallup Korea said JSON records second and first brand awareness among Korean women in their 20s and 30s. This chart shows high brand awareness of Tina among their main targets. Based on successful positioning and high brand awareness, JSON's jewelry division has been stable cash cow. As you can see, EBIT margin is really high. At the same time, handbag division is also recording high growth rate, which exerts a pulling effect to the entire JSON product line, showing high sales. Based on successful performance of Tina in Korean market, we expected JSON to be successful in the Chinese market as well. There are two specific reasons. First is considering the fact that main customers of JSON duty-free shops are Chinese tourists, we can infer that increasing sales in duty-free shops means JSON has successfully appealed to Chinese. Second is, through Hallyu effect and star marketing, JSON's brand awareness is really high in the China. As you can see, according to comparison research, 80% of 20s, 30s women who live in the main city in the China recognize the brand JS Tina. Up to now, I talk about investment point, and now Kyung-gu will explain about valuation.
Thank you, Young. From now on, I'm going to talk about valuation part. Our target price is 23,000 won, and its upside potential is 103%. We reached this price using DCM method based on 10 years. As each market and division shows different characteristics and growth rate, we use the sum of the part approach. We first forecast sales in each market and division, and later sum all parts to forecast total sales. First, we forecast sales in Korea using S.K.K.U. model. Based on the past 3 years' growth rate and EBIT margin, we allocate each division in the development stage. As handbag division shows extremely high growth rate but low EBIT margin, we think it is in growth stage. As for jewelry division, it shows relatively high growth rate but it seems slow down, and EBIT margin is also high, so we think it in maturity stage. And in case of watch division, both growth rate and EBIT margin shows negative number. We allocate it in decline stage. And then, based on this S.K.K.U. model, we compute the equation to forecast the expected growth rate of each division. And then, next, Chinese market, we use the different approach because there is no past data for Chinese market. First, we compute the target segment who are Chinese women in their 20s and 30s. To earn this number, we multiply total Chinese women in their 20s and 30s and middle class ratio 23%. And then we estimate market penetration rate of each division based on the current business status in Korean market. We report current market penetration rate of each division, jewelry 3.9%, handbag 1.9%. And then we apply this number to forecast sales in China through S.K.K.U. model. Multiplying target customer and market penetration rate, we can get expected unit sales. And multiplying expected unit sales and average price of products gives us expected sales in each year. This slide is about WACC analysis and basic assumption for our valuation. We use WACC as discount rate, and we refer 10-year government bond rate as risk-free rate and 5-year cost of return as expected market return. And then we compute the equation of each account as function of sales through regression approach. This table shows free cash flow to firm and table, and discounting this number with WACC, we can reach our target price. To sum up, major factors that cause decline in Roman's stock price have been mitigated. And based on the successful positioning, JS Tina shows extremely outstanding performance in Korean market. Also, it has full potential to be successful in Chinese market as well. This is why we believe Romanson is very attractive company to invest. Thank you for listening, and this is the end of our presentation.
Okay, you have a chart that got my attention. Your S-curve charts, you seem to have fit some sort of mathematical function.
Right.
So can you walk me through, one, the mathematical function, but two, and most importantly, why math has anything at all to do with the real world?
you asked two questions. First, how we derive the S-curve model. Can we see the S-curve model? So we made an S-curve model for each division. And based on the S-curve model where it says that a business enters exponential growth rate at the beginning and later matures off, similar to the product life cycle, so we applied that methodology to our S-curve model. So, well actually this in fact talks about the market penetration rate. So to answer this graph and why we use this equation, we'll have to explain the market penetration rate. Is that okay if I can? So the market penetration rate is calculated for each division for jewelry and handbags, and we can see the total sales for jewelry division, which is a fact, and we divided that by the average price of jewelry products. Now the average price was found by weighting all of the products of jewelry C.O.N.F products that are available in the market, and we added a weighted average to get the average price of the jewelry. So you divide those two numbers and you get a quantity, which is about 290,000. That's the unit sales of jewelry. The same method applies to the handbags as well. And using the 290,000, we go to the next equation, which is the 290,000 comes up here, which is the number of C.O.N.F jewelry sold during that year, divided by the number of C.O.N.F target customers. As we mentioned, the target customers are the 20s to 30s women, but this is in Korean market, so 20s and 30s women in Korea, and divided those two numbers to get the market penetration rate of 3.9. The same applies for the handbag, and you get those figures, and this in turn leads to the S-curve graph. Now, it's a two-part graph. It's basically a combination of two graphs. So this value will be 3.9 here, and then we applied the respective equations based on the forecast that we just made, getting the numbers from there. And the same applies to the handbag. That will be 1.9. Does that clarify your question?
A log function to get to the first half, and I don't know what the second one is, just to approximate the end penetration rate.
Right, you mentioned that there's a log function, which is what we did, and then to fit the market penetration rate of 3.9, we made it to gradually turn down to 3.9.
As a follow-up for your S-curve forecast. So based on your forecast, what's the trend of the Romance's market share in jewelry and handbag market, and what drives those market share up or down?
Can you ask if you're talking about the Korean market or the future sales in China?
In China market, you have different approach. So
right. So
for the Korean market, please. Yeah.
Okay. Can you show the graph where the sales ratio of each division decreases? So to address your first question was what drives Romance's jewelry and handbag sales in Korea?
What's the market share?
Expected.
Yeah, future market share of Romance.
Well, currently out of the 5 billion won in Korea, Romance has 10% of the market share in the jewelry and 3% in handbag. We don't have the exact numbers here, but those are the facts. And so
In the future.
In the future, how will it happen? Okay. So what happens is for the handbag.
So to support his argument, we are okay. Handbag is growth stage and jewelry is mature stage and watch is decline stage. So we expected their growth rate after Korean market in 10 years. So we declined the jewelry division is this S growth rate is decreased this way, and handbag division is also increased, and this is growth rate, and also in this mature stage this shows. And watch division is the company's data says watch division is they restructuring now, so we focus this G growth rate.
Having said that, so I presume that you fix the market share as constant going forward.
You ask 10 years later market share of C.O.N.F, right?
So
It could be 10 years or next year or in 2 years. It could be.
Currently they have 13% of market share in jewelry industry.
So in your calculation, we assume that you keep market share as a constant variable.
No?
So you think no, because I think the question that's being asked is that implicit in your analysis, is that seems to be a market growth estimate.
No.
This is-
Companies, each
company
division
specific.
closely.
Okay, which brings you back to the original question,
Yes.
which is, do you have any idea what implied market share that would come up with?
We expected market shares of J.S.T.N. is constantly grows with the industry's growth.
Yeah, that was my,
Yes.
that was my.
Yeah, we expected that.
You made the statement earlier in your presentation, one of the reasons to buy the stock is because the worst is over.
Yes.
The stock chart certainly does not seem to suggest that. Okay, right? And so tell me, what's the issue then with the stock? Okay, it is certainly not recovered, and so it would challenge the assumption that the worst is over.
Right. So it was during my part of the presentation, I mentioned we're going to talk about a major external and an internal factor, or risk. In fact, there's, as all companies do, they have many risks, which are not covered in our presentation, such as the geopolitical risk associated with North Korea, or the deteriorating profitability, which has led to the public perception that the company is not doing as well as they used to. So why don't we do the North Korea first? Whenever there's news related to North Korea that, because Romanson has its facility in Kaesong Province, North Korea, and they import their watches, whenever there's news related to North Korea, the price has fluctuated. And you might think that the public perceives Romanson as a North-South Korean economic cooperative stock, so whenever there's threat of the North attacking the South, it affects the stock. But in fact, our research shows that Romanson has a diverse range of suppliers, so they don't rely too much on the facility in Kaesong Province. So out of these suppliers, they are able to manage their day-to-day operations and production of the Romanson goods, regardless of the state of